This week on the show, we have Mr. Jim Park, and Jim is an award winning trucking journalist. As well as Jim has over 20 years of actual truck driving experience. Today, we're getting into Jim's actual very personal information, Jim's health, and his recent heart attack and how it affected him. So we're talking about heart attacks, symptoms to watch out for, and how this all relates to truck driver health. That's today on the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Oh, okay.
Why would we pick Jim Park to be a spokesperson for truck driver health?
Well, if anybody knows me, I'd be about the last person I'd expect to see on a podium talking about driver health. But hey, here I am.
You've been quite open with your experience. Why? What happened recently?
Well, I had a heart attack back in June, is what started. Yeah, really healthy old me.
Yes.
I've led a fairly sedentary. Cameras out of focus. Led a fairly sedentary life. I spent most of it sitting on my keister, 20 years driving a truck and then 24 more years as a journalist sitting in this very chair. I get a modest amount of physical exercise, not what you call exercise, just activity. I don't walk around a lot. My eating habits, tend to lean towards the less healthy than the pro-healthy. And I guess it caught up to me after a while. I was at an event in Michigan back in June, and first thing in the morning, I came down from my hotel room and was out behind the hotel having my first cup of Starbucks and a cigarette, and I feel this pain between my shoulder blades, and it wasn't even a pain. It was just I had the sensation that I'd slept wrong. Bed was too soft. I'm thinking, okay, some back issue, it'll go away. So the day went on and I could feel this sensation up high in my back between my shoulder blades. And I just thought, okay, well, yeah, it'll go away. It didn't feel at all. And this is the essence of this story. It didn't feel at all like I believed a heart attack would feel like. So the event in Michigan unfolded as it should. I went home that night, drove home from Michigan to St. Catharines. Went to bed with the same sort of sensation between my shoulder blades, but it was a little bit worse. I got up Friday morning and wrote the story that arose from the event I was at in Michigan. I'm sitting here at my desk writing, and I've got this sort of hot kind of feeling between my shoulder blades, and I'm thinking, that damn bed, this is hanging on longer than it usually does. Oh, Friday went by with that pain there, and it didn't really come and go. It was consistent. Then Saturday, I had planned to do a bunch of yard work around the house. I clean out the shed. I had to do some work up in the loft here in the garage where we store all our Christmas junk. So I was up and down a ladder all day, moving heavy stuff, from the top of the garage down to the floor and out, carting it out to the driveway to take it to the dump. And the pain was there and it was a little bit more severe, but still ignorable. And I woke up Sunday morning. I woke up in pain, and this, I never wake up without an alarm clock. Or 10 hours or 11 hours worth of sleep. I sleep like a log. So I think maybe 5, 6 hours of sleep that night, and I woke up in pain. I'm thinking, okay, there's something wrong here. I better get over to the hospital. So I got dressed, drove over to the hospital, went into emergency, and I said, I've got this pain in my back, and I don't know what it is, but it's really, really sore. And she asked a few questions, and I answered them, and she said, come this way. And they took me in, strapped me into an ECG machine, electrocardiogram, fired it up, and the look on her face, I knew I was in trouble. He didn't have to say anything. I got really big and went, oh, Mr. Park, you're not planning on going home today, I hope. And I'm like, maybe not. So anyway, that was the beginning of it. And I wound up over in Hamilton. They put me in an ambulance even. Took me to St. Joe's Hospital over in Hamilton and booked me into a a surgery for a stent. I have a stent placed in one of the arteries in my heart. Um, and the rest, as they say, is history. I recovered from that satisfactorily. And to be honest, and this is the weird thing, I have never felt better.
Yeah.
It's like the frog in the pot story, right? You throw a frog into a pot of boiling water, it's aware of the problem right away. Whereas if you
Mhm.
leave the thing in the water and you turn the heat up slowly, it doesn't notice. So
Right.
all these years, so whatever was wrong with my heart and my veins and arteries and what have you, um, I was just progressively feeling worse and worse, but getting used to it.
Right.
So I thought, okay,
Shrugging it
well, I
off.
feel
It's not
crappy today,
that's
but
not a big
yeah, shrugging it
deal.
off. It's just getting enough sleep last night, whatever the
Yep.
problem I invented
Yeah.
to account for this, lethargic, unhealthy, sort of lazy feeling. I joke to people that if I woke up that way, feeling like that when I was like 20, I'd have gone to the hospital right away. Oh, there's no way I should have felt that bad, but you get used to it. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'm getting old. I'm 65 now, but no, within well, a day, hours after the surgery, um, I kept thinking to myself, like, what's happened? This is amazing. This is black and white. I couldn't honestly believe it. And I jokingly tell people, um, this thing made such a difference. I wished it had happened 10 years ago,
Yeah. Uh, I mean,
or which I clued into whatever was wrong with me 10 years ago. What a
yeah.
difference it would have made.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're told almost all of our lives, suck it up. There's nothing wrong with you.
Mhm.
Just,
Yeah.
you got a little
Yeah.
pain. Suck it up,
It's
buddy.
in your head.
Deal with it. Yep.
Especially men. Suck it up. You're a man.
Be a man. Deal
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
And the
Well,
reason
I was gonna
think
say
this,
oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, the reason I think this is such a great story is what you described earlier, your sedentary lifestyle is exactly what truck drivers are doing every
Mhm.
flipping day.
Yeah.
You know,
The
Well, and
activity they get is,
your symptoms don't even correspond with what we hear about, what we know about to be a heart issue. Your heart's here in your chest, not in your back, and then, oh, my left arm should ache, and some different things that associate, which we know, oh, that could be signs of a heart attack
Mhm.
versus a pain in the back because I slept wrong. I feel like I slept wrong.
Well, you may recall I wrote this article or an opinion piece, uh, had it on Facebook and I put it on LinkedIn. I think it was
yeah,
on Truck News as well. And I did that specifically because I was dumbfounded when they told me I'd had this heart attack. And I said, this didn't feel at all like I'd expected it to feel.
Mhm,
And as
mhm.
John points out, and I did some research. I went on to the Heart and Stroke Foundation website. I went to the Mayo Clinic. I went to a few other websites and I looked up symptoms of a heart attack. And they listed them all out, pain in the neck, left arm goes numb, heart burns sort of sensation in your chest, yada, yada, yada. And I had none of those.
and
So I thought to myself, I'm a fairly smart guy. My wife is a CPR or was a CPR and first aid instructor. So years ago, she had me signed up for all these classes that I had to go and learn how to recognize heart attacks and do CPR and all that kind of stuff. So I sort of knew what I was, what I expected a heart attack to feel like. I kind of had
Mhm.
some idea what this was supposed to be like. Having never had one before, when I
Mhm.
did, it was right out of the blue, and I had no idea.
Mhm.
Like I said, it felt like I had slept wrong in the bed, and I had a muscle
Mhm.
kink or something in my back was just
Yep.
out of alignment or whatever. I was more inclined to go to a chiropractor
Yep.
than in the emergency ward if I hadn't woken up in so much pain on Sunday morning.
uh, it- at this
It's
point, I
worth
want
reading
to,
that story if you can link to it,
Yeah.
somewhere.
yeah,
I've read it. I
Other
read
folks
it
have
once.
it too.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, let's put a disclaimer into the show. We do not have any medical professionals on the show. So what you're
I am not a
hearing,
medical professional.
what you're hearing is, is not from a medical professional, none of us, but it's Jim's experience with
Mhm.
having a heart attack. So, what message would you like to get out to truck drivers, especially, but to all men, but to truck drivers?
Pay attention to your body. Um, obviously, and I reject, you know, the evangelical approach some people take to health and heart health and everything. They wave their fingers in your face and, you know, throw spinach in your direction, all that stuff. People never listen to that sort of, admonishments that, well, you're not looking after yourself. You have to eat better. Well, yeah, I know I do. So what makes me want to eat better? Um, should be a recognition that this old body of yours can only tolerate so much abuse. It's like a tire, if you don't look after it, it's not going to look after you. It's going to wear
Mhm.
out sooner or later. Um, I, as of that Thursday morning, had not yet come to that conclusion that I was burning the candle at both ends. So
Mhm.
now that I've been through that experience, I would say to people, do look after yourself, listen to what your body is telling you. And for the sake of what might happen to you at some point, read up on what the symptoms of a heart attack are. So that if you recognize, like I did not, recognize something happening that feels strange and unfamiliar to you, the first thing you think of could be a heart problem.
Well,
I
the
got lucky.
intake, the intake nurse at the hospital must have recognized something because you said one of the very first things they did was hook you up to the ECG machine or what machine was it again?
Electrocardiogram,
Yeah.
ECG, I think it was.
Yeah. But she must
Too
have
many electro
recognized
somethings or other.
something in what you were describing. She knew or had suspicions as to what might be wrong.
Hmm. Luckily for me.
Yeah.
Damn nurses. Uh, damn good
Yeah,
people.
she didn't say, or we never got into a detailed discussion about it because she's, probably discouraged from telling patients what the real scenario is. Um, but she said I was lucky that I got in there when I did.
Oh, wow.
And whatever she saw on that ECG certainly, got her attention.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't know it to look at it, whether it was good or bad, but certainly something caught her eye. And like you said, she recognized something in my description
Right.
of what was going on that she thought it was warranted to do this ECG as soon as possible. But oddly, if she knew about the back pain, the pain between the shoulder blades, I've never seen that particular notation in any symptom of a heart attack.
Yeah. So drivers,
Well,
besides the other symptoms, listen to Jim. You
Mhm.
know, well, it is, and your description of burning the candle at both ends, such as you said formerly you were a smoker. Many of us are, or at least former smokers. Lack of activity. You've mentioned that you said you walk. Did you walk before the heart attack as well? Didn't you?
I did, yeah. Um,
As he says, with no
wasn't vi-
conviction.
well, it wasn't vigorous walking. I think there's
Right.
a bit of a difference when you take your dog out. It stops at all the lampposts and fire hydrants and eats
Mhm.
grass and chases other dogs. So you're not really aggressively, marching down the road doing your thing. So post heart attack, I took a more aggressive approach and I actually walk to get my heart rate.
Mhm.
And do a couple of 10-minute sort of sessions where the heart rate is elevated, slow down, rest a little bit, speed up, do some more, the 10 minutes of, faster paced walking. Now, I should say, and this would probably be a wise thing to consider, I undertook this entirely on my own. I had nobody urging me to get out and do it. It was my choice, my decision. But I guess if your heart is probably in bad enough shape, doing that kind of exercise might kill you.
Mhm.
So only a word of caution is to not undertake any kind of an exercise program until you've at least consulted your doctor to see if you're fit and
Mhm.
able to do it. That would be a caution. I don't want to suggest people go and do things that might hurt them. So
Well, no.
take that for
And
what it's worth.
the other part of it is you said it earlier, listen to your body. So if you do have the ambition to get out and walk a little bit, listen to your body. Do it if it feels good, and if it not feeling so good, maybe you should stop and go see a doctor for a proper official medical professional opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rather than, I think we're all former truck drivers on here. So
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
we're all former truck drivers. Like, who in the hell are we to tell you how about health and shit? You know?
Well, you can always tell a truck driver, but you can't tell them much.
True. Very true.
So
You could probably get 2 or 3 drivers around a table arguing about symptoms of a heart attack.
Yes.
Oh, no
Yes.
way. Well, my uncle had one, and Jesus, he had more pain than you did. You know,
Yeah.
well,
never happens, right?
I mean, I read the story, and that's what it encouraged me to reach out to you to get you on, because you were saying that the symptoms aren't what you expected. And they started off very mild because you continued on Friday. You said you wrote your story. On Saturday, you were up in the loft doing the chores around the house. And then on Sunday, you finally decided to drag your ass into a hospital. Like, that was 3 days.
Oh, it all
Exactly.
started in Michigan. You drove home from there. So yeah.
Yeah.
You're my hero, Jim.
Cost of healthcare down there is brutal. I had to get back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm driving home no matter what.
Yeah, hell, my
It's like-
my arm and my lap has been cut off in an accident, but okay, I'm driving home to get this sewn back on.
You got to get to
Oh.
Windsor.
That's it. Get across the Ambassador Bridge. We're laughing. I had no idea. It honestly never even crossed my mind that might be a heart attack.
Yeah.
and
Or
That's how
anything else for
strange
that
it
matter,
is.
like you said.
I assumed, I was convinced it was from sleeping on a too soft bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're all aware. I know when I worked for an insurance company, at least once a year, and it wasn't a large, I mean, it was a trucking insurance company, but it didn't have a huge amount of trucks on the road. At least once a year, we would have a driver who would unfortunately die while the truck is moving behind the wheel, going down the highway.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to think of, you know, that was Old Republic at that time. They've grown a lot since I worked for them, but Northbridge and, you know, some of the other players, Intact, would have more trucks on the road. Damn, if that little company had at least one every year, what are the big guys doing?
Well, and unfortunately, the age demographic of our drivers today have done nothing but get older.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, so we're all, as a group, more susceptible to, you know, the effects of age, whether it's a heart problem or a stroke or any number of things can go wrong. Obviously, strokes and heart attacks are kind of instant, more critical things than
Yeah.
a spleen failure, but you know, whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
and truck drivers are often alone, or usually alone.
Yeah.
And driving 80,000 pounds at 105K or 65 miles per hour. Damn, if you know, the risk involved to the driver's life, to other people's lives on the road, it's enormous. And so drivers, listen to Jim and start listening to your body, I think. You know,
When I wrote that story, the one that's on Facebook, I was thinking of a guy in my mind as I write. I put a face out there and write to them, who had woke up in a rest area somewhere in Northern Ontario and was feeling like this. So Northern Ontario, you know, hospital's not around the corner. What's your next step? Do you get in the truck and power down to the next town with a hospital? Do you call 911 from wherever you are if there's cell phone service, which there probably isn't? Like, what steps do you take? You know, you've got this hot load, dispatches breathing down your neck, and you're saying, "Well, no, I think I've got heartburn or a pain in my back." So, why? Are you kidding? You're a man. Suck it up. Get out there. Get that damn load delivered. Then you can go to the hospital. It's like, no, guys. You know, something's not right here. I need to deal with this. So the point of it was to say, okay, even if you're in Northern Ontario and you've got to drive to Thunder Bay or wherever you can find a hospital, do it carefully. Be cognizant of what's going on. Take what steps you have to, but don't push it. Don't say, well, I'll go to Winnipeg because I can make it.
Mhm.
Got to get the load there. Really, your health and to some degree, I guess, the safety of those around you is
Mhm.
more important than getting your load of groceries into the depot on time. Because if you had that heart attack up there, Rainy River somewhere, cross a line, boom, into another truck or into a school bus, or God forbid, something worse.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, I would venture, and this hasn't happened to me, so I really am not speaking from experience here, but if the heart attack were to be serious, like a fatal, it would probably distract you quite a bit while it was happening.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
would you be able to get the truck off the side of the road safely? Likely not. And in a moment like that, who knows what goes through your mind?
Yeah,
Uh, but it can certainly it could have a tragic outcome for
mhm,
everybody, and it
very much
really
so.
ought to have if you just listen to your body and pay attention to. And I don't think, it could be wrong here again, not a medical professional, but that big heart attack probably doesn't come along unannounced.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
"Da, da, da, da."
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't I don't think that's the case, but I could be wrong. But
yeah.
certainly there would be something there that tell you, "Okay, this is really not good, something bad's happening." Even if you have to stop the truck in the middle of the lane, just
Yeah.
get it stopped,
Mm.
and that way nothing worse happens to anybody else.
and again, the three of us on the show, none of us have personal experience with that type of a heart attack. But
No.
Jim, I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't gone to the hospital on the Sunday. What would have happened on the Monday? Because you said the pain got worse on the Sunday, and that's why you went. I wonder, unfortunately, unfortunately for this story, we don't know what would have happened on the Monday. But fortunately, you're here to tell us that it got bad enough on the Sunday for you. But I wonder if it would have progressively gotten worse.
I believe it would, and I'll tell you why. Uh, they put a stent in one of my arteries on my heart. That stent is in there to hold the artery open. Um, my it turned out after the fact when they did some blood work on me that my cholesterol levels were all acceptable. I mean, almost good. My so-called good cholesterol uh, levels were low, but okay, and the bad cholesterol levels were only a little bit bad, like
Oh,
a point, a tenth of, well, I think he
No.
said, I'm gonna forget the number, but 3.8 or 3.5 was optimal. I was 3.8. Whatever the number is, it was
Okay.
marginal.
So not something that was alarming.
Not something scary. No, not
Yeah,
alarming at all.
yeah.
In fact, the doctor said they reduced my prescription of a cholesterol medication I was taking after the heart attack because I didn't need it. Anyway, so they put this stent in one of the veins in my heart. He said some people have two, I had three. The third one was the one that was blocked. And the
Mhm.
pain I was feeling was the pressure inside the artery uh, from the heart trying to put the blood through this blockage. Now, it was a constant pain. It was like a sprain. It's always there. It's not like you could feel the pulsing. I thought,
Right,
okay, if this hurts, like, my heart's doing
right.
this and I'm feeling it. No, it was consistent. It was smooth. It was constant. Um, but what happened to me, and as a writer, this was a really big problem. I was having a really hard time focusing and concentrating and thinking when I was trying to write. So I'd be sitting here with the keyboard and the blank white screen, and I couldn't put thoughts together in my head. I couldn't. So this is the beginning of the story. This is the middle. This is the end. I couldn't mentally progress through the story in my head the way I used to be able to do it. Never in the world thought it was a circulation problem. But
Right.
after the heart attack, my thinking was clear as a bell. Well,
Hmm.
as clear as it gets for a guy my age.
Clearer.
Clearer, a lot clearer.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think if this blockage had been allowed to um, remain, the pain probably would have continued getting worse, uh, and eventually that one artery artery might have closed off
Mhm.
and could have done some mental damage, maybe a stroke. I don't really know what the outcome might have been, but I felt instantly better. Like when I woke up, I wasn't even asleep with the surgery. I was just a local anesthetic. But afterward, I felt like, wait a second, what just happened to me?
Hmm.
Because I feel that much better that quickly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I would never, if someone had said to me, uh, this will happen and you will feel really shitty one minute and really great the next. You can't do that. It's like
Mhm.
Star Trek, right? They wave the little
Mhm.
thing on you and everything
Yeah.
goes away. It did. And the change in me was remarkable.
They,
So whatever that blockage was, it was significant. Probably lucky too that I had 3 arteries rather than
Mhm.
2, which is normal. Some people have 3, some have 2. It's nothing. I'm not a freak.
Right.
But I was lucky. I guess I had that 3rd one there and could burn it. Literally. Don't
Yeah.
need this.
Well,
so
but I was going to say there's a good indication right there. So not only the back pain, which is quite unique in this situation, but the your thought process was not there and clear. So that alone can be a telltale sign to somebody that's operating down the road. Maybe you've got a similar feeling or symptom, and then all of a sudden, I'm having a hard time putting my thought process together. Going, I know I'm going here, but I'm trying to figure out how I'm getting there from here after this. So right away, you should be thinking,
Mhm.
I need to get off the road and figure out what's going on. Again, back to that, listen to your body.
Well, if you were to, yeah, you're absolutely right about the thought process. And I couldn't, in my wildest dreams, draw a connection between, being hard of thinking and a heart problem. Would
yeah,
never have occurred to me. So I tell people this just because maybe it's happening to you, and take my advice or not. I don't, doesn't matter. But if you're experiencing muddled thinking, not outright confusion, I could still function. I wasn't like forgetting where I was driving somewhere in the car going, where am I going? Oh, at the liquor store. Yeah. Okay. Hammer down. Um, so it was sort of the finer, thought processes where I was,
Yeah.
trying to maintain a little bit of something on this side of my mind that was part of the
Right.
story and add something in the middle and then carry it through to the end. Sort of a complex process I was having difficulty doing. Uh, but the doctor never addressed that when I asked about it after the fact, but I can darn sure tell you it was different afterward.
and
So something
Wow.
changed.
so again, I think the message of this whole episode really is drivers and other people, listen to your bodies.
Listen to your body. Yeah.
Yeah. If you see some of the signs that Jim's talking about, get checked out. I mean, what the hell is the worst thing that can happen? They send you home and say, no, you're fine. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
Well, I think a lot of drivers, if you were to sit them down in a candid moment and say, when you go to the doctor, for your required physical every year or 5 years, whatever your turnaround is, are you totally forthright with the doctor? Are you telling them everything that you're feeling? Or are you thinking if I go in and admit to something, they're going to pull my license and then I'll be unemployable? So there's a huge amount of pressure there, on drivers to not tell the truth at medical time, because if they do admit to something, that's it. They're no longer driving a truck and their families
Mhm.
get turfed out and they can't pay the rent and it's a bad, bad situation. So in a lot of ways, I know doctors have the authority to pull people's tickets if they suspect there's a number of things going on. I don't know what all those symptoms are now, but certainly I'd be thinking twice about admitting, um, everything that I felt over the years to my doctor because I know that could cost me my CDL.
and is it
Right.
even
And there's
your
no
doctor?
support mechanism in the industry. You
No,
lose your license, that's it. You're against the fence
yeah.
and good luck to you, pal.
I've given up my CDL because I had to go. I'm at the age where I had to go yearly and I wasn't using it. But the last time I went, it wasn't to my family doctor. It was to one
Mhm.
of the mills where I could pay less than
Mhm.
$100. I was in and out in 20 minutes
Oh,
with
wow.
my medical.
What's the name of that place? I gotta go there.
But No, it exactly what you're talking about there,
Yeah.
Jim. The doctor, unfortunately, this doctor at least, I didn't feel he had my interest nor the public's interest at heart. He was there to
Mhm.
complete the form and give me my clean bill of health so I could keep my CDL.
And
That's
collected $90
Wow.
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
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 Anyways, it's a shame, but that's how I felt. It'd be interesting, those people listening and watching, leave us a comment about what Jim's saying about the medical practice. Are you forthcoming? Do you tell your medical practitioner everything when you're there for your CDL exam? Leave us a comment. Jim, thanks so much for coming on the show once again. I think this is like your third or fourth appearance. We've had different things. We'll get you back on the show to talk again about Jim's specialist, I think. Jim, you can elaborate a little bit, but is new technology in trucking. Isn't that where you kind of delve deep frequently?
I like to dig deep. Um, I said in a recent opinion piece I wrote, um, I'm a journalist, not a cheerleader.
Right?
So when I sit down to write a piece about battery electric trucks or hydrogen trucks or the latest and greatest solution to climate change that comes our way, I don't take people's word face value. I don't take what the OEMs say that this is the safest, best plan. I always dig. I always ask questions. I go maybe even outside the immediate sphere to talk to people who have opinions on this or who understand the physics of what we're talking about. So it's always been my privilege, I guess, and I think an obligation as a journalist to cover these things from both sides. And I've learned that there is no magic bullet here. All the solutions that we've got on the table today, batteries, hydrogen, natural gas, they're imperfect. Some are less imperfect than others. And none of them will get us to where we want to be in a fiscally reasonable way, or even in a logistically reasonable way. There's going to be change. There's going to be compromise. It's going to cost us money. So let's look at the best options for the least amount of cost, the least intrusive sort of technology that still provides the best benefit possible. Doesn't necessarily mean all the benefits.
Mhm.
Where is the best place for somebody to follow Jim Park?
Well, I think for the time being, it's trucknews.com or todaystrucking.com. My former liaison, HDT, Heavy Duty Trucking, I wrote a lot of good stuff when I worked with them. So you can look up truckinginfo.com and you'll find an archive of stories I've done over the years that I think are worth reading. And I'll just tease a little bit and say there's another project in the works that we'll be coming out with soon that will, give you easier access to that kind of stuff that I just was talking about.
Well, good. And
Cool.
I follow you on LinkedIn. I know. Do you post much to LinkedIn?
You know what? I'm a social media dinosaur. I really I need to get over that because I'm a journalist and I'm a sort of a quasi public figure, and it's in my best interest to get under as many people's noses as I can.
Mhm.
Um, but no, I'm going to start doing. I actually got an Instagram account like a month ago.
We'll
Jim,
have
you're
a
in the new
Tells you where I'm
generation.
at.
I will put a
Yeah,
link
it's like
to
Jim
Jim.
Park 22 million or something, whatever the number is that they're up to now. But yeah, I posted a few things on LinkedIn. I made a little effort a while back to sort of light that up. The enthusiasm ran out, and I frankly don't know how to use it very well. So once I figure that out, once my teenage daughter teaches me how to use it, I'll be fine.
Oh, that's unfortunately, I'm with you. I use LinkedIn a lot to post, but I don't currently use it effectively. But I'll put a link in the show notes to Jim's LinkedIn profile.
Good enough.
I think that is appropriate. And I'll put a few other links down there, uh, you know, largely what you tell me to put down there, Jim. But thanks so much for coming on the show once again. We'll have you back for technology in the near future.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, definitely.
perhaps you can come back and tell us what the new project is once it's been released. So
I will do that too. Be happy to do that.
thanks,
Cool.
Jim, for coming on. Damn, we had some fun with Jim. And I'm glad to see that Jim and his heart attack are on the mend and everything's gonna, Jim's got a bright future ahead of himself. So reach out to Jim if you've got any questions. His contact info is in the show notes down below, including his LinkedIn profile that neither one of us know how to use properly. That's it for this week on the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. John and I thank you so much. Please click like and subscribe. Leave us a comment as to what the hell you thought of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. John and I answer your comments personally. Thanks so much. That's it. We're out of here.